Simon was speaking there about quite a lot of exciting, I thought, entrepreneurial opportunities. And I noticed Britain wasn't on that list. So our next speaker is going to rectify that. And he's going to try, I hope, answer the question why Chinese companies should be interested in the UK. So the next speaker is actually Eric van der Kleij. He was born in the Netherlands, brought up in South Africa, and is known as a serial entrepreneur, having started many telecom companies. And in his present role, he's an advisor to the Canary Wharf Group. He's responsible for advising the group on bringing more technology companies to the area in terms of London, and he's been appointed the chief executive of the Tech City Investment Organization over the past 6 years. Now, of course, this is something which is very close to my heart. I'm a board member of London and Partners, and the aim is certainly to try and increase London's visibility so that next time, Simon, we will invite you back, and I want to see the UK on one of your charts. So, Eric.
Thank you very much. I think the lesson that I've learned from Simon is that at all our international trade meetings, we should definitely bring a few drinks first. So thank you for that. That's a very good suggestion. My name is Eric van der Kleij, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a technology entrepreneur. Not all of the businesses that I founded have been successful. In fact, the first two were a complete disaster. But the third one was a good business. The third one was a technology company that did this thing called credit card fraud prevention. And it was a business that I started from scratch in London and eventually grew to become number 3 in the world for what it does, and finally sold that business last month. That experience of taking a business and growing it through all the stages is the thing that made me completely be on the side of entrepreneurship and innovation and do everything that I can in my life following that experience to help make it just a little bit easier. Because as we've heard today, both innovation and entrepreneurship are the essence of the lifeblood of the future prosperity of both China, the UK, Europe, and most of the world. When you think about how many jobs are created from companies that were formed in the last 10 years only, the majority of them. And that's pretty much internationally. So it's a very important obligation on all of us to do that. So what they asked me to do today was to share a little bit of the experience that I've had and to give you some ideas about the kind of opportunities that we're looking at in the UK now, and to explore whether this might be interesting for yourselves as well, and for China. Just to say that the work that I was doing with the Tech City Investment Organization was to promote a technology cluster called Tech City in East London, which is an initiative by David Cameron, which sought to amplify the existing cluster that was growing in East London. Now I'm going to show you a map of Tech City. And the reason I decided, I wasn't going to do any slides, but then last night a small group of you kindly came to have a look at the Canary Wharf group where we're doing some open innovation. And I showed the map. And somebody asked me an amazing question, a really good question. And I'm going to use that question as an example to discuss natural open innovation and the way that natural open innovation can help raise the game for everybody in digital clusters. So when I joined the Tech City Investment Organization, they asked me to create a map. And normally when you create a map, it needs a border, right? So the first thing I did was ban any maps that show a border. But I had to create a map that showed how the technology cluster was doing business with each other. So we took the Twitter feed of all the companies in the cluster, well, actually just a few hundred first, and we put them in a database. And we showed when one company mentioned another company on Twitter, we drew a line between the two companies. And when somebody mentioned somebody else back, we drew another line back. So green lines are two-way, red lines one-way. And it created a very natural map that shows how the companies in the cluster are doing business. It shows what they're thinking about. And this is in the digital technology, digital and creative technologies. And it's an amazing tool because, firstly, for us, as we try to identify what the cluster needs to help grow, we can see the questions that people ask each other. For example, does anybody know where I can get a good accountant who doesn't charge a lot of money? Does anybody know where I can, find a good engineer? And so this gives us, if you like, in government, an incredible view of the real-time thinking. By the way, these are live tweets. They normally say very rude things, so I apologize if they do. But it's very good because you get the real natural response. For some reason, with Twitter, you find that people tell you a lot more than you ask to know sometimes, which is quite helpful. Now, the real benefit of this is that, firstly, that companies that come to the cluster can add themselves to the map, and currently there are 1,293 companies in the cluster. And when they have a problem, they can ask a question to everyone. Can somebody tell me how to solve this coding problem? And the answer is available for everyone to see, which is an interesting philosophy when you think about it, because what it means is that somebody else could steal your ideas. But the benefit of this is that the intellectual knowledge of the whole cluster moves and increases with every question because everyone has visibility of the answer. And so, in theory, the knowledge of the cluster is accelerated as a result. That is an extraordinary innovation that living more open lives has allowed us to do. And it's actually that I'm going to link to in terms of what I'm doing at the moment with the Canary Wharf Group, as well as a hint at the type of new business models that we're exploring at the moment that you might also be able to explore. Because we live much more open lives with things like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Renrenwa and Weibo, sorry about my pronunciations, by the way, I need to work on those. But because they are much more open, they enable entirely new business models. Let me give you an example. There is a company called Airbnb, where because I'm registered with Airbnb and because I have a public profile in my social media, I can now go and stay in hundreds of different apartments that belong to other people. Why? Because they know who I am through the open lives that I lead. They know that they can see recommendations from other places that I have stayed because I allow that openness. So an entirely new business model of using empty rooms and creating some income has been enabled by living that open life. It's quite an extraordinary philosophy that takes a mindset to change. And we are in Tech City, the digital and creative part of East London, exploring a lot of new business models like this. Now, I'm currently working over here in the Canary Wharf, which, as you can see, is part of Tech City. And Canary Wharf is traditionally known for financial services. In fact, 20 years ago, it was part of the major revolution in financial services technology. But the world of financial services is suffering at the moment, possibly from the wrong kind of innovation. And so what we are doing in Canary Wharf is setting up what's called Level 39, which is an area that is intended to help the world of financial services transform and to identify and develop the right kind of innovation that will help financial services move forward in a healthy, more transparent kind of way. And that's something that I'd be very happy to share in more detail because that's a whole different presentation. So I'm not going to do that today. But I'm going to give you one example. As a result of the open lives that social media provides, financial services providers can now use a different source of data in making risk decisions about individuals. And so one of the areas that we're exploring is the ability to use social media to help solve KYC. KYC is this thing called Know Your Client. It's very important financial services. You have to know who you're doing business with. And the concept of having a natural, chronological, historical track record of an individual can help build a profile that adds another factor towards KYC that's very natural, that has until now not really been exploited. So that's one example of how we're using digital technology to help transform a traditional industry. And finally, what I'd like to say is that we would very much like to invite people to come and explore this kind of thing with us. The reason we've created Level 39, which is, by the way, the whole of the 39th floor of the tallest building in Canary Wharf, it's a very considerable investment, is we would like people to come and explore new ideas with us, where we could work together to, say, improve technologies that help us to do business more effectively between other countries. And so as in final closing, I would say if anybody is interested to come and have a look at what we're doing and has some ideas they'd like to come and try with us, we would be more than happy to welcome you. Thank you very much, and I look forward to chatting with you all later.